Q Lake, he won't be here. He's feeling sick, but hopefully it's just a quick little bug. EY, we're going to be smart with his knee. Manuel Forbes will be limited with his shoulder. Everybody else will be good to go.
Coach, looking back on the last game, how much have you looked at you might have wanted to run the ball more and how that's going to be an advantage all the way through this?
You're talking about against the Bears?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I thought, hey, better late than never, right? So
Exactly.
I think our guys did a good job executing. We were at our best when we had to be. There was a lot of things that we can learn from, and we'll have to be on the screws and be sharper throughout, starting with myself, if we expect to do what we want to do.
When you were playing a team for the third time, Sean, division obviously, how much do you have to change like formations with plays that you like, things to disguise what you want to do that maybe they got to look the first couple times?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I think you want to be careful not to chase ghosts. It is about good execution, good fundamentals. They're a great team, and they're great in all three phases. We'd like to think when we're humming and we're at our best, we're pretty good too. And so you are aware of those things, but you don't want to do it at the detriment of allowing guys to be able to go execute and play the way that they're capable of. And we've been in this situation a couple times where in the 21 season we played the Niners in the NFC Championship, and then we played Seattle actually a third time in the COVID years. So it's been similar where we've played two playoff teams, or two divisional teams in the playoffs, but it's going to be a great opportunity for us. We're excited.
Sean, you look at the Week 11 game, that was Matthew Stafford's lowest yardage output. Week 16 game is most. Were there significant adjustments made, or that maybe just like a game?
I think each game is its own separate entity. I think you got to be totally present. You got to play your best in those 3.5-hour windows. There's a lot of reasons for either or. Matthew did a great job early, I thought, in both games, and give them credit. It was unique where we just didn't have a lot of snaps off in that first game. But they are excellent defensively, and so we know we have tremendous respect for this group. We know what it's going to take, and those games, you use them as inventory, like what Gerard was just asking. But every single play and every single game is its unique own entity, and we got to be able to handle that accordingly.
So you talked about some difficulty just adjusting connections a bit on the scrimmage, wasn't the most Seattle's another time.
Yeah, without diving too much into the tactical stuff, I think part of what I was kind of alluding to the other day is how many layers are you putting on top of, it's one thing to have the play call, and I think there were some instances where, not some, there was definitely some instances where, you could be better in terms of the clarity for players to be able to go play and execute. And so it's going to be an outstanding atmosphere and environment, but we can't afford to have some of those things, and that's where, we as coaches have to make sure, all right, are we providing the opportunity for our guys to go play fast, free, and physical, but also, not just, run wasted plays, because they do such a great job. So you're always finding that good balance, and that's something that we've worked pretty hard about. And fortunately, we were able to learn without it having to cost us of ending our season the other day.
Sean, you think
Well, I think the first thing is the accountability. I've heard him talk to you guys about one of the areas of focus and concentration. He's had all the success the first couple of years, but consistently catching the football. Hey, what's the job of a receiver, especially in the pass game? Get open and catch the football. And he's always had great natural hands. Sometimes those guys that have the most natural hands can take it for granted, where you look to catch transition before you look it in all the way. My dad used to tell me stories about, Jerry Rice. His dad was a bricklayer, and he's dropping his brother's dropping bricks down, and if he dropped it, he'd drop it on his brother's head. So he would always look that ball in, try to read the writing on the ball was the way that he would try to really be able to kind of have that heightened focus and concentration. But you'll hear Yarb say it all the time: you catch the ball with your eyes. And I think he's done a great job with that focus and concentration while not allowing it to take away from the run after the catch, which is an elite trait. Say that again. So many ways, he's obviously excellent in the pass game. I think he's got a great understanding with the concept trigger. You look at the play that he made the other day, it was unbelievable. I think he's got a great feel for, when he is part of the run fits and just being able to aggressively close space, long stride, short stride, shuffle and shoot, can activate him as a blitzer. So he's a versatile piece. I thought he was instrumental in how well we played defensively the other day. He's a freaking stud, and what an unbelievable play by him when we had to have it. That was competitive greatness at its finest.
Coach, there was a
What's up, Vinny? This must be a big game, huh?
It is actually. How much has Devontae meant to this?
He's meant so much, Vinny, and he's done so many different things that, obviously the stats and what he's done in the red zone, but just the production. And I've mentioned this before, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't go down on the stats that moves our offense forward with the amount of PIs, contact fouls that he's ended up, moving our offense forward, but that doesn't necessarily always go down on the stat sheet. He elicits attention that opens other things up. But also, he's a phenomenal leader. I mean, he's got so much wisdom. He's willing to share and pour into guys. I think he's added a swag and just an overall charisma and presence, and he's been huge for us.
Sean,
Coach, there was-
Yeah, I think it's just playing each snap. Being totally present, playing one snap after the next, not allowing yourself to get too high or too low. And I think every single snap represents an opportunity to do one of two things: maintain the momentum or snatch it right back. I think our guys have done a good job of that, but you got to be ready to just be totally present, lock in, and have the competitive stamina to be able to do right a little bit longer. That's consistent with every game, but obviously the stakes are higher and the opponent is really special, and so it's always about us first and foremost. But we know what it's going to take, to be able to try to deliver in a hostile environment against a team that's as complete as there is in this league.
Coach, there was a
Came
move.
out after the game of your speech heading into overtime about doesn't matter what happened, just we're going to win this game. I know that's the job, but it seems easier said than done after a play like Caleb had just made. So where did you learn how to really reset that way to where it's the messages up?
Yeah, I don't know that. I think I've seen great examples. My dad's the best leader that I've ever seen, and I think the most important thing is you trust your gut and you immediately address it right away. I think that was a play where you're like, what the hell just happened? And I think it was important for us to be able to reset, and I thought our guys did that. And it wasn't like the overtime went exactly ideal either. That was what I was so impressed with is. That's why I was kicking myself after the game. That 3rd and 1 play, I'm thinking, man, if that ends up being the play that costs us, because I didn't put us in a great spot, I mean, that would be a rough offseason. And so, fortunately, defense just kept making them snap it one more time. Cam Crow makes a great play, because, that was a good back and forth where it was competitive after we had to punt it away. And then once we got that ball back after the pick for Cam, I thought the offense did a nice job being able to get themselves in field goal position. But as it relates to that, sometimes you just have a feel of, all right, hey, where are we at? What's the most important thing? And let's do the next right thing. And our guys did that. I don't think it had anything to do with the speech, but Dave Ragone showed me that this morning. I was cold as shit. I could barely scream right there. It was so damn cold right there.
And to add on top of that, I was going to ask you, Nate, what Nate said, how much of this team and what they've been tested throughout the season with Stafford's back injury and obviously the 5 losses played into that moment and coming back and staying calm?
I think what's been reflected is that we've been, strengthened through our scars. I think you look at it, and you guys have asked me about it. There was a handful of games that we had, or a few games that we had, where you maintain a lead, and then they come back, and then you're not able to kind of make the plays that are necessary to be able to finish it. Well, that hasn't been the narrative in each of our first 2 playoff games, and so don't know exactly how this game's going to unfold, but I do think our guys have become more resilient. I think there's a resolve. I think there's a mental toughness and a fortitude that's necessary. And I've been really proud of those guys, because it is about how you finish. You can't win the game until the 4th quarter, and last week's instance until overtime. And so, I love this group. I think they've used these scars the right way.
Sean, a couple more guys. Stands out for you in terms of Stafford in games, specifically in Seattle, since he's been with you guys. Second part, unrelated, what went into the thinking of starting Roger McVay over Forbes?
Yeah, so you knew you were going to get your question in. It's a little competition. I think the first thing is whether it's at Seattle or in general, Matthew is always present. He does such a great job with the command, the overall ownership. It's why he's regarded the way that he is, and he's so special, and we feel so fortunate to have him lead the way. But I think overall, just that command, that confidence, that poise, that ability to love those pressure-filled moments, I think that gives a calm in the midst of some of those chaotic moments. And I think that resonates with his teammates, and it creates a belief that's not exclusive to the offense. That's our whole football team, coaching staff included. And so very fortunate to have that. Really what we were looking at is, we wanted to be able to play, all of those corners. We had the mindset to be able to play 4 corners. Forbes got his shoulder early on in the game. There were some different things that we liked that Roger provided. I thought he did a really good job in some instances against Carolina. And so Aubrey has a good feel for being able to rotate those four. Forbes got his shoulder, but I thought, Roger did a really nice job. Obviously, Jacoby was outstanding, and I thought D. Will had a really good game as well. So, if that answers your question, that was kind of
Sean, how do you balance coaching this week a prolific offense versus a prolific defense, the execution versus not making mistakes?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we can't beat ourselves. Before we even try to attempt to do what we're capable of doing and what we want to try to do against a phenomenal defense, let's make sure we take care of our own house. We do the things that are necessary in terms of our overall operation and being able to handle some things that we didn't do as good a job of. And like I told you guys, that's a collective, but those are all things that we can fix, and we can't afford to make those same mistakes that we made last week if we expect to try to be able to advance against this outfit. And so, and then it's about, after the ball is snapped, let's strain, let's understand how good these guys are, and let's, do a great job of just fighting our ass off through the cycle of the snap, because that's what's going to be required.
Your thoughts, right?
You guys gonna get Mike and we're gonna get Stu.
Sean, you're 2-0 in these NFC Conference Championships in your career, and you've talked about execution, staying in the moment, staying present, not beating yourselves. You've also talked about luck and those 50-50 balls and things going your way. What have you learned from those past NFC Championship games to, make that luck fall in your favor in games like this, if it's even possible?
Yeah,
and then, what's your favorite memories from those past two?
Yeah, I would say this. I definitely don't know how to make luck go in my way. If you have an answer to that, let me know. I'd love to hear that. But I think what we've tried to do a really good job of, Michael, is really just controlling the things that we can control. Having the wisdom and the perspective to let's lean into the things that give us the best opportunity to have successful outcomes. Let's spend our physical, emotional, and mental energy on the things that we can control and not waste our time on the things that we can't. Sometimes, it was like I was telling you guys, really fortunate the weather died down. Nevis is as calm as it gets, but, that was the football gods smiling on us for the 42-yarder to be able to end the game. My favorite memories are the shared experiences after you achieve a goal. There's a lot of moments within those games. Obviously, one that comes to mind in the NFC Championship a couple years ago, Aaron being able to force that, and then T. Howard makes the pick. But I thought, we go down 10 in that game, and the resolve and the ability to stay present. We had to come from behind. And guys, everybody had a hand in being able to get that done. But what I remember the most is the enjoyment of doing something special with people that you care about, and the relationships that are built in the midst of the journey. I think what you try to do a much better job of is enjoying the journey. I don't know that I always did that. Sometimes you look back and you're like, man, I really wish I would have taken that in and understood what a blessing it is to even be in these opportunities, lean into it, try to have the right vibe. But those are the things that you remember is, Whitworth and Matthew. I remember those guys hugging, and I get in there and they drill and scratch my nose afterwards, and I couldn't have cared less. Where normally, man, I'd be like, what the hell, man? He hit my nose. And so those are some things off the cuff that I remember.
We'll wrap up with Stu.
There was a moment post-game review both shared ownership and some of the talented moments for the offense on Sunday post-game. Just what do you appreciate about him offering that, and how does that help your guys' relationship as a play caller and quarterback?
I think any great leader that I've ever been around, and Matthew is a perfect illustration of that, there's extreme ownership and there's accountability. And I think you can always really be able to say, all right, first and foremost, let's look at what I can do to try to help, put ourselves in position to do my job to the best of my ability, and how that helps the collective. And that's where, I feel like, I'm not playing, but some of the decisions and situations and circumstances you're putting guys in, you can absolutely be better. I expect to be better. But that's what guys love about Matthew. I mean, you'll never see a guy, when you look at the way Matthew handles himself, that, isn't an excuse maker. I've heard it said before, I think excuses are tools of the incompetent. And Matthew is the furthest thing from that. He's got great ownership, and I think that's why people want to follow him, is because of the way that he handles, stays humble in the great moments, which he sure has had a handful of those. And then in the moments that we can be better, he owns it, and now we can move on, and he's a freaking stud.